Hi, welcome now to video 3 on our continuation into chapter 33, our introduction to prayer. Now, in the last two videos, we looked at what is prayer. We then looked at prayer as a relationship with God. And now, this particular section looks at all of us are called to prayer. What does that mean? Prayer is not limited to only a group of people. All of us are called to pray. They even say that anyone who's in danger will cry out to God in whatever manner, and it's part of our human existence. So, all of us, whether you think about it or not, especially during this time, we're all called to pray because let's face it, the reality is only God knows how this thing is going to turn out. We have as much information as possible as through science, but really there stands this thought that God, who is all knowing, has all the knowledge necessary to combat this. So, in that reality, we're called then to talk to God and ask God for His guidance and His help. Now, with that particular call that everyone is entrusted with this calling, we then go into the next section in your text, and it talks about how prayer is identified in the Old Testament. Now, next year you'll be taking scripture class, and if I am fortunate enough to be teaching you all, you get round two with me. But there are various examples of people who experience God, who have a relationship with God, which was part of video number 2, who basically had this ongoing prayerful relationship with Him. And if you are seeing in the PDF text that has been uploaded, those examples include Abraham, whom you will whom we call the father of our faith. He's the founder, he's attributed for the three great monotheistic religions of the world: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And actually, you'll learn about him in second quarter of sophomore year. And then you also go into the character of Moses, which we looked at a little bit when we looked at the Ten Commandments, that God calls Moses and he's given him a task to go back to his homeland and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And then you have King David, which we just covered about a week or two ago. The man after God's own heart who also screws up. And he has a beautiful prayer, Psalm 51, where he admits his wrongdoing and he asks God to restore him. And King David is attributed to being the writer of many of the Psalms that you hear, that you see in the Bible. Psalms would be those particular passages we hear in between the first and second reading at Mass. They're the ones that have a response. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. That's an example of one of the Psalms that David is attributed at writing. And then we get into the prophets who themselves had various struggles. We don't have too much time this academic year to go into detail as to the prophets, but many of them have had their struggles in regards to declaring what God wanted them to say to that particular king, that particular area, that particular country. So they were honest. And the one thing I want you to take away from this section is the prophets of old, the various characters we see, they admit to God their own shortcomings. They tell God, I don't want to go. They tell God, not me. And if we start with that basis of being truthful, then we can grow as human beings and as people of faith. And then I want to end this particular video with the example of prayer. Who would that be? Who do you think I'm thinking of? In your textbook, it's Jesus. And I was listening to Archbishop Burns. He had a video that came out yesterday, and really, we talked about how Jesus is the image of prayer and how we should pray. He's the human being who he is God become man. He is made in all things except sin and teaches us how to battle sin. And we saw that early on Ash Wednesday. You could hear someone's doing something in the back. That's actually my mom. But think about that. Jesus is the model of prayer. And what prayer did he give you or give us as the model? That's the Our Father. And if you looked at the beginning of the chapter, the Our Father is there. So as we conclude this video, think about the examples you've seen in your life as to how to pray. I want you to think about a person whom you have known throughout your life who was the best example of prayer. And many of us can probably think about grandma. Maybe there's that person in church. Maybe grandma's the tetza. So, you know, you got prayer whether you like it or not. You got to do it. But who gave you that example, and what are some examples of prayer that you practice, whether it be by tradition or by need and practice, because it's the thing you do? So I want you to think about that, and that'll be part of your discussion board question. Okay? So next time, I'll see you. Bye.